Good afternoon and welcome to Lauderdale Lead. My name is Brad Schmidt. I'm the pastor of City Church Fort Lauderdale and the City Network leader for Made to Flourish, an organization that bridges the gap between Sunday and Monday, integrating faith, work, and economic wisdom. I'm excited to be with you today, the last Lauderdale Lead of the weirdest year of all time. That's right, 2020. A pandemic with a worldwide death toll of over 1.5 million people, millions and millions of contractions in the United States. We have civil unrest, we have political unrest, we have economic turmoil as businesses have been shut down. The markets have drastically fluctuated. Unemployment rates rise, the national debt increasing over $3 trillion this year. So that's what's going on in this moment. And then there's you, the leader. How are you doing? How in the world are you doing? How are you going to calibrate this chaotic cultural moment? As we end this year together, I want to talk about enduring leadership. We need enduring leaders, leaders that can face the harsh realities of the days ahead with poise, with courage, with strength, with vision. The definition in the dictionary of endure is to remain firm under suffering or misfortune without yielding, though it is difficult. So, how do we do that as we enter into this new year? And what we're going to do is we're going to look at 4 principles of enduring leadership today. And here's the first one. Enduring leaders lean into adversity. Now, this, as we stated, has been a year of adversity. The American philosopher Mike Tyson once said, "Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face." And 2020 punched us all in the face. See, there are 2 approaches to challenges. Either you can avoid them or you can assume them. You either want to do everything you can to not have to go through anything difficult or challenging, or you assume that challenges are inevitable and are an opportunity for growth. So let's try this out for a second. Psychologist Jonathan Haidt writes this: imagine you've been handed a script of your child's life. Then you're given an eraser and told you have 5 minutes to edit out whatever you want. Whatever you read that you do not want your child to experience, you can erase out of the manuscript. So you begin to read as fast as you can. You soon discover that a learning disability will cause your child to find reading difficult, make education difficult and tiring. Do you erase that disability? You read further and notice that he or she makes a number of friends in high school, but then one of the closest friends dies suddenly. Do you edit out that friendship and the grief it will cause? Still further, you discover that your child gets into the college of their choice, but while there, they get into a car accident, end up losing a leg. Do you erase that accident? A few years later, you read that they land a wonderful job in the field of expertise that they desire, but then an economic downturn causes them to lose that job and face difficult and stressful times. Do you erase those months and years of a difficult economy? He says you get this script with 5 minutes to erase. What would you erase? It's a great question. 1 year ago, you get the script for 2020. What would you erase? See, in the West, we are more than any other culture averse to adversity. We hate it. We all know this. We try to avoid it at all costs. Cultures past were different. The perspective was, this is just how life is. There was no trauma center, no prescriptions, no emergency rooms. Life was hard. Life was short. If you want to have 5 kids, you should try to have at least 10 because premature death was just assumed. And the perspective was, you don't live for this life. You live for the next life. You get what you want in the next life, not in this life. We live in a culture that says the opposite, that there is no next life beyond this. This is it. And so that affects us in this culture. You get in a car wreck. Who do I sue? Your child doesn't make the team. You go talk to the coach. Your child doesn't get the part of little orphan Annie in the play, so you talk to the director. We don't deserve to suffer. Modern wisdom is, I want my kids to have a better life than I did, which sounds right, but here's the catch. Thomas Merton was a 20th century monk, poet, and social activist. He said this, "The more you try to avoid suffering, the more you suffer, because smaller and more insignificant things begin to torture you in proportion to your fear of being hurt. The one who does most to avoid suffering is, in the end, the one who suffers most." Do you hear the beautiful wisdom in those words? The irony is when you try to avoid suffering, you don't develop the skills to face suffering, which is inevitable, unavoidable. So now those smaller trials become huge to you. Our lack of preparation for trials, the surprise of trials, only compounds the trial. So what does this have to do with your leadership in 2021? Before you start this next year, don't waste your 2020. When I was in high school, I played baseball, and one game I was playing right field, and it was a very close game. The ball came to me in the air, a pop fly, and I dropped it. And then I picked it up, and then I dropped it again, and I kicked it. And all of a sudden, as I'm panicking, my heart is panicking now. And once the panic gets to the heart, now everything else is just mush. My arms are now in a panic. So I grab the ball. My arm now turned to mush. I pick up the ball. I'm so nervous, so anxious. I throw the ball as far as I can over the third baseman's head, into the opposing team's dugout. And when I do, I hear coming from our dugout a thunderous crashing noise. Our head coach had taken a metal chair and slammed it up against the dugout. Needless to say, it was a rough day. And what happened was I took a bad situation, a dropped ball, and I made it so much worse. I booted the ball, and then I overthrew the ball. You know what we often do with our challenges and our pain and our trials? We take what could just be a dropped ball in our life, and then we often boot the ball, and then we overthrow it. That is, we don't know what to do with it. Now something that's bad is now really bad. Listen, 2020 was a drop ball. Can I just say that? But don't boot it. Don't overthrow it. Use it. Learn from it. Grow from it. You have been tested. You have had to make leadership decisions that were unthinkable a year ago. Don't waste those lessons. And assume already the challenges of 2021. When they come, don't avoid them, lean into them. Enduring leaders lean into adversity. And secondly, they leverage reality. When I've coached leaders during this pandemic, I am amazed at how many are just waiting for things to go back to normal. And what many experts are saying is, we're not going back to normal. Here's leader and author Andy Crouch on his take of what's ahead. He says, we're not going back to normal. If you're a leader in an organization, it is time to rewrite your vision deck. That presentation so many organizations have that summarizes who you are, whom you serve, why you serve them, and what you do and how you do it. This is a time to urgently redesign our work in light of what we believe is not just a weeks-long blizzard, not even just a months-long winter, but something closer to the beginning of a 12 to 18-month ice age, in which many assumptions and approaches must change for good. Crouch says almost all of us can and should keep the first 3 or 4 slides in our deck. Everything else needs to be reevaluated. So here it is. Either you can despise reality or you can leverage reality. Many leaders are leveraging this moment right now. Carrie McDonald is a senior fellow at the Education for Economic Education. She writes this. She says, the pandemic and related government lockdowns have caused widespread economic and social disruption over the past several months. But recent data show that entrepreneurship is surging during the pandemic. Seizing new opportunities and spotting unfulfilled needs, entrepreneurs may help to lift our economy from its sickly slump. According to a Wall Street Journal analysis, Americans, quote, are starting new businesses at the fastest rate in more than a decade. These startups don't outpace the number of companies closing this year due to the pandemic, but they do suggest that entrepreneurial individuals are launching new enterprises to satisfy changing demands. According to government data, listen to this, there have been 3.2 million applications for employer identification numbers this year. Required to start a U.S. company, EIN applications reached only 2.7 million at this same time last year. The journal cites additional data to confirm an increase in entrepreneurship beginning in June, as some individuals turned layoffs or reduced working hours into opportunities to build a business. See, whether you lead a growing company or a team or a startup, leverage reality. Again, I love how Andy Crouch put it. Every organization is now a startup. There has never been a better time to innovate because people's expectations have been demolished. One of the organizations I lead is a church, and in any church, people have preferences, people have expectations, and pastors, we sure do hear about them. But not so much, interestingly, during the pandemic. Grumblings are diminished, preferences are set aside. Everything has been disruptive. It's like there's this all hands on deck mentality. We're all in this together. And here's the key. We're all going to figure this out together. What a great context for innovation and change. What have you been doing that was built for the old world and for the old expectations, and what needs to change? Leverage reality. Now is the opportunity. So we've talked about enduring leaders and how they lean into adversity, how they leverage reality. Thirdly, let's talk about how they learn gratefulness. Enduring leaders are grateful leaders. They are not entitled. They don't expect everything to go their way. They can withstand the challenges of life and work and a pandemic because they have practiced the discipline of gratitude. I'm going to give you now the most important thing you can possibly get out of this talk. So I want you to listen very closely. Here are several ways for you to be miserable. First, catalog all of your problems in life. Every day you get up, list them, name them, reflect on them. Then go on social media and pick a fight with someone. Like, tell them who you voted for, why you voted for them, why they are complete idiots for not seeing it your way. Now, while you're on social media, try this. Follow people who are more successful and better looking than you are. Utilize Amazon while you're online to keep your material cravings alive. And if you don't have the money to pay for those cravings, that's okay. Use a credit card. And please, 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 make sure you routinely feel sorry for yourself and pity yourself. Because here's the thing, if you don't do that, who will? When something bad happens to you, blame other people and find something to complain about every day. And I promise you, you will be miserable. There you go. Ready, set, don't do any of that, okay? 2020 has been incredibly hard, and 2021 is going to have its own set of challenges. What if this was the year that you intentionally cataloged your gratitude, those things in your life every day that you can be thankful for, relationships, places, opportunities, the work you get to do, the people you get to lead? Create that catalog and don't keep the gratitude to yourself. Release the gratitude. The John Templeton Foundation did research with 2,000 people and found this: people are less likely to feel or express gratitude at work than any place else. Friends, this is your opportunity. Negativity in our world is at scale. It is everywhere. You turn on the news, it's there. You turn on social media, it's there. You can break through all that noise. You can stick out in the best possible way by showing massive amounts of gratitude. The people you lead will feed off of it. And the end of the year is a great time to do it. What note do you need to send? What call do you need to make before year end? What bonus do you need to process? What do you need to do to show gratefulness in your life and for the people in it? And here's the last thing as we head into 2020. We've talked so far about leaning into adversity, leveraging reality, learning gratefulness, and finally, enduring leaders lighten burdens. There is an incredible amount of burnout. Physical, emotional, mental health challenges for leaders right now. In my industry, data just came out that 70% of pastors are looking for another job right now. In every industry, though, leaders are suffering. And the first burden you need to lighten is the one you impose on yourself. See, enduring leaders have to surpass the fear of failure to move forward. They can't be beholden to the expectations of others over them. But most importantly, they can't be oppressed by the expectations they have on themselves. We are in the midst of a pandemic. Can I just say something out loud for all of us to hear? You are doing the best you can with what you have. Your team is probably doing the best they can with what they have. They have family members sick. They're scared themselves. I was leading a group at an addiction recovery center one time, and someone shared how they feel like they've blown it in their life. They were mad at themselves. They felt completely inadequate. And so I told this gentleman not to say anything for a moment. And I went around to everyone else in the circle, and I said, you just heard how he feels in this moment. And I want each of you to go around and to respond to him. What do you want to say to him in this moment? And I instructed the gentleman just to listen. And people went around and said, that's not that bad. I mean, you should see what I've done. Someone else went around and said, you've got this. I believe in you. Another said, you're doing a great job. Just keep it up. Keep it going. And then we all talked about the point of the exercise. We are so hard on ourselves, much harder than other people are on us. So before you head into 2021, consider recalibrating your inner monologue. Mike Howerton wrote a book called Glorious Mess, and in it he describes how different were the motivational methods of the two men who coached his high school football team, Coach Crow and Coach Rush. When his team was losing during halftime, the two coaches would give two very different pep talks. Coach Crow would come in growling, spitting disdain in his words at us, he wrote. What a bunch of losers, he said. What do you say? Let's get your girlfriend suited up. They do a better job. Your flimsy arm tackles make me want to puke. I'm going to go look for some diapers for you babies to wear in the second half. Maybe then you won't embarrass yourself so bad. And Mike writes, he'd leave and absolute silence would descend. Virtually no sound except for the muffled sobs of Monty, our kicker, in the corner. And then our defensive head coach, Coach Rush, would come in. He'd look each of us in the eyes with his steely glint. When he began to speak, you could feel strength flow into your limbs. He would begin with something like this, measured and building in intensity. I don't see high school students. I see lions. This locker room is filled with lions. A bunch of lions is called a pride. A pride of lions hunts together. A pride of lions kills together. Lions are majestic to behold. Lions are the kings of the land, and this is your land. You are the pride here. But there's one thing I haven't heard you lions do tonight. I haven't heard you roar. Now we're going to go out there, and everyone in this two-bit town is going to hear you roar because you are lions, and lions roar. And Mike writes, we would erupt in an ear-splitting roar, even Monty, because we weren't seniors or juniors. We were lions, and lions roar, and we would inevitably go out to victory. I want to leave you with that today. See, it's not that you have to kick 2020 to the curb, but you do need to kick Coach Crow to the curb. In this next year, pursue enduring leadership. Lean into whatever adversity comes your way. Leverage whatever reality is before you. Learn the practice of gratefulness and relieve burdens, first on yourself and then on others. Thank you so much for joining us at Lauderdale Lead today. I want to invite you to stay tuned for updates as we plan for the new year. Grace and peace.